These are the materials that I use for my watercolor paintings. Since I started painting with watercolor, I've been using this Skintone watercolor paper. It's 200 GSM and 65 pesos for 10 sheets. For paint, I use a mixture of brown watercolors, 16 colors for around 500 pesos, and Winsor & Newton watercolors, 12 colors for 1,200. And I apply those paint with these Montmartre acrylic brushes. I forgot the brand of this mechanical pencil, but I use the Faber-Castell refills. And to remove those pencil marks, I use a regular and kneaded eraser. For the highlights, I use this Unibold Signal white pen. It's 95 pesos, or this acrylic and poster paint. And to secure my paintings, I use this clipboard which I wrapped in tape, then a 12-inch ruler for sizing and grid, and just a regular masking tape and scissors. And for some details and color correction, I use this clean polycolor pencils. And last but definitely not the least, a regular hair blower to speed up the drawing process. First, get a piece of paper. I cut mine to 9 by 11.5 inches. For the markings, I add in 1/4 inch border and 1/2 inch grid. Connect the lines and it should look like this. And with an eraser, lighten your pencil marks. Next, write the numbers for the columns and rows. Sometimes I use Rimini to enhance my reference photo. And I use this grid drawing app. Click on Let's Grid and choose your reference photo. Next, add in the number of rows based on your markings on the paper. And then click on Grid. It should look like this. Check also the number of columns. For the settings, I make sure I select the square mode and count number grid. The line color is transparent gray, and I have 1 pixel for the line thickness. Click Save. You may now use it for your drawings and paintings. Get your paper, tape, pencil, eraser. Start with a guide and draw the basic shape of the lips. Then erase your guide. Get water, brushes, paint, and tissue paper. Wet the area and add a wash of red. Mix brown and violet for the darkest areas. After that, I just mix in a bit of red to add in these details. Then erase the pencil marks. Add red in the middle of the lips and then blend that with a damp brush. While the area is still wet, you may add in more paint in the middle and then make the details more defined. Now it's time to add in the shadows. Using white poster paint, I'm adding in the highlights. And now you know how to paint lips with watercolors. Get your paper, tape, pencil, and eraser. Start with a guide and lightly sketch the basic shape of the nose. Then get a glass of water, brushes, paint, and tissue paper. Lightly wet the paper. Then add a wash of brown mixed with yellow-orange for the skin tone. With the same color but less water, add the darkest area of the nose. And with a bigger brush, add the shadows. Blend that with a damp brush. And then erase the pencil marks. Repeat the steps until you're satisfied with the saturation. Mix brown and violet to make some parts even darker. If you want, you may also add freckles and a wash of red, and then with the white paint, just add the highlights. And that's how you paint a nose. Get your paper, tape, pencil, and eraser. Begin with a guide and lightly sketch the basic shape of the brow. Draw a diagonal line. Hair below the line goes upwards, and hair above the line goes downwards. And in the inner part, draw the strands like this. After that, get a glass of water, brushes, paint, and tissue paper. Wet the paper first and add a wash of brown mixed with yellow-orange for the skin tone. With a smaller brush and more brown, paint the hair strands. Then erase the pencil marks. And then fill in the gaps with long V's like this. You may also make the previous lines more saturated. And then draw random thin short lines to fill in the gaps. Brows come in different sizes and shape, and this is one way to paint them. Get your paper, tape, pencil, and eraser. After you have drawn the basic eye shape, it's now time for the lashes. Lashes right above the pupil go upwards, and as you move towards the outer corner of the eye, they slightly curve towards that direction. And same as you move towards the inner corner of the eye. Same goes for the lower lashes, just make sure they are a bit shorter. Now get a glass of water, brushes, paint, and tissue paper. With a small brush, I mix brown and black, and then just paint over the sketch. I have shaky hands, so this is a struggle for me, but just make sure that the tips are thin, then erase the pencil marks. Fill in the gaps with 2 or 3 more lashes and make it random. Make some overlap and others meet towards the end. Do the same thing on the lower lashes. And now you can paint lashes. Just let me know if you want a tutorial on this eye. Get your materials and start with a guide. Then draw an almond shape like this and then add a lash line and a waterline. Also add in these 2 lines for the tear duct. Now I'm adding in the iris, the pupil, and some highlight. And then don't forget the crease and especially the eyelashes. Now get your painting materials. Load your brush with yellow, put that above the crease and underneath the eye, and then blend that in with a damp brush. For the shadows, I mix brown and yellow-orange. I put that in the inner third of the eye, blend again. I added the same color in the tear duct and this part of the waterline. Now use a small brush and a brown to paint the crease. Now with violet mixed with the brown, add these shadows in the inner corner of the eye and under the crease. Just to add more saturation, I'm adding a wash of orange over the brown. Now erase some of the pencil marks before you make the yellow more saturated. Add that to the outer corner of the eye as well. Now get your painting materials. In my previous video, I showed you how to paint this outer part of the eye. Now it's time for the iris and details. For the base of the iris, I'm adding this wash of green and then add a bit of blue around the iris, also around the pupil. I just blend that in with a brighter blue. I also added these little diamonds for details. And then just add a bit of black around the iris and then fill in the pupil. For the eyelashes, I mix brown and black. And then with a white paint, just add in highlights in the iris, under the eye, under the crease, and in the tear duct. Now you know how to paint eyes with watercolors. This is how I paint skin tone with Prang and Canson. Start by mixing yellow-orange, brown, and a bit of red for the base. With loads of water, I put that all over the face except the highlights. With the same mixture but less water, I add in the shadows, and then just using a damp brush, I blend in the edges. Some areas look a bit red, so I just add a wash of that color, and then here you can see me adding orange. And then for darker shadows, I just add in brown. Once the entire paper is filled with paint, you may now erase the pencil marks. And then just repeat the previous process until you're satisfied with the saturation. Here I added a bit of violet for the darker shadows and the freckles, and a wash of red for the blush. Once you're satisfied with the skin tone, you may now add in the black. Of course, don't forget the highlights. And this is how I paint hair. I always start with a mid-tone, and here I just mix brown and yellow-orange. And then I mix brown and black for the shadows, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I add in colors such as brown and orange. And to add more details and depth, I use smaller brush to make hair strands. You can also buy or make liner brush for finer hair strands. And of course, don't forget the highlights. If you don't have liner brush or small brush, it's okay. You may use color pencil or white pen. I hope this video helps you, and follow me for more tutorials like this.